I'll start by talking a little bit. We're going to see if we can get the clicker to work with the Prezi. But normally our system is all internet accessible, 24/7, wherever there is an internet connection. For the purposes of the conference, because sometimes the wireless can be a little bit funny in the conference areas, we decided we're going to put everything on our server. So generally you would be able to use your own laptops or tablets, but for this purpose we've set up some laptops and tablets for you to demonstrate. And you'll see a few things that are inside of the system, which will show you that it might be a link to regentsprep.org or something like that, which normally you would be able to, the students would have accessibility to that, but just for these purposes, we just wanted to kind of let you know. So, and if you're sharing with somebody, I don't think anybody's sharing right now, so I think we should be good. Yeah. What do I hit? Okay. So I know everybody already heard us, talk and introduce ourselves. We were very thrilled to be able to do that. But I'm just going to introduce myself. My name is Ruth Arezzi, and I'm the e-learning coordinator here at Right Reason Technologies. All of those people that you saw talking up in the front at the e-learning roundtable, those are all the people that I talk to on a daily basis. They're running the programs that I manage and coordinate, along with Jamie Wood, who's our program coordinator located on Long Island. So she's the, front lines of running into those programs and making sure everything is working. And I'm behind the scenes in the back office, managing everywhere from Montauk up to Rochester, New York. So we span pretty much everywhere. And then Lois, I guess you guys already heard from us, but we have Lois Etzel, and Ryan Schoenfeld is also going to be helping us. You heard from him earlier with Greece. And then you'll hear a little bit from Brian again with his programs over at Southampton. So we're going to go through a lot of this pretty quickly. You've been listening to this for the last 2 hours. So what we really want to be able to do is show you how our system can be used to implement everything you just learned in the last 2 hours. So today we're going to talk a little bit about blended instruction. What is it? Everybody has their own definition, so we'll go into that a little bit. Lois is going to talk about those digital native strengths and teaching to a digital native. Then we'll go into some effective models and current best practices. So you'll hear from Brian in Southampton, Ryan a little bit in Greece, and then we're going to do a flipped classroom demonstration. So the first part is blended instruction. What is it? And, our program and everything you were hearing them talk about in the e-learning roundtable is exactly what we believe blended instruction is. And it combines the traditional classroom, that face-to-face instruction, with the online component, with the computer lessons and that interactivity with the computer and engaging the strengths of these new types of learners that we're educating. So we consider it really the best of both worlds. And I think Ryan alluded to it earlier. I like to refer to our system and all of our programs as the high-tech one-room schoolhouse. So it really is one teacher in the front who's social studies certified, and they may have somebody in global studies, U.S. history, government, and economics, all in one high-tech one-room schoolhouse. So they still get that interactivity with the teacher. So they get to interact, they get to do mini lessons and some one-on-one instruction, but they also get to do their online assessments, their formative assessments, and online discussions in their own individualized paces. So we consider blended learning to be an excellent option, especially for these digital natives. So everybody, that's how they learn. So we're going to teach them the way they're going to learn the best, not the way we learned, 15, 20, 30 years ago. We're going to have to change the way we instruct so they can become better learners. So I'm going to pass it off to Lois, who's going to talk about the digital natives.
Thank you. So there was an event which changed things so fundamentally, and there's no going back. What actually changed in education, or actually in our world? It's the arrival and the rapid dissemination of digital technology. If you just think back to when you were younger, actually all of us, without dating ourselves, like I said before, many of these technologies weren't available for us. How many of you have young children? So, young, like 3, 4, 5. So you have a tablet, Dave? You have a smartphone? Brian, you do too? Your kids know how to use it? 3.
My daughter's 9 months. She plays with the iPad. There's 3 games on there.
So, I mean, without me showing you really some of my cartoons, those are digital natives. We're digital immigrants. No matter how you cut it, except for maybe Craig and maybe Brian, but you guys are Ryan. Ryan and I keep arguing. I think he's like borderline. I don't know. He's illegal. So, digital natives, just if you want a formal definition, they're people who've grown up in the digital world using technology. And they communicate, record, educate, do everything. And if you look at my little cartoon there, how many of you might have had a kindergartner who came home and actually said that to you? It's true. So natives speak the language of technology. While we may struggle with the language, and we're constantly asking our students, so what does that mean? What is, Ryan, what is the thing that you showed me, how you take those pictures? See, I don't even know the words for it. Instagram, no, the picture. You take a picture and you send it out.
Oh, the screenshot?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, exactly. So, like things like that. I'm like, what is that? You can do that? Wow, that's pretty cool. This is what we are. We're the digital immigrants. And there's significant differences now in our digital landscape. Digital natives prefer receiving info quickly, multiple sources, multitasking, parallel processing. Pictures, sounds, and video before text. These are very hyperlinked, interacting in real time. And Mark, that so reminds me of your presentation. And that's what digital natives, the kids in front of us now, do almost 24/7, except, of course, when they come to our classrooms, if we're still traditional teachers, like Mark was saying, in the front of the room lecturing. So that's learning instant, relevant, fun, user-generated content. That's what their brains look like now. They're not like our brains anymore. That's what teachers think of it. We have to change that mindset. But this is what we prefer. And as teachers and as administrators, this is what we try to impose upon our digital natives. We like controlled release of info from a single source. Sound like a teacher? Focused tasks, information from text, private and personal space, and that's exactly what Google doesn't do. And info presented linearly, logically, and sequentially. Then, of course, there's always the refugees. I know. Is that like a classic? And these are the models that we currently run in practice, and then we're going to get into some of the more creative ways of managing a classroom.
So there's a lot of different uses for our RightPath platform in the different programs and in the different school districts. So what we tried to do was highlight a few of the effective models that we've seen within districts. But because our system is so customizable, you can literally run your program however you want. I know you, one of the questions was, when does your program run, right? Or something, when are the students doing the work? Some of them were after school, some of them were during the school day, some of them were at home. So it really is, it could be coordinated in a variety of different ways. So what we tried to do was pick one example of each of those, and you'll see kind of in these examples that there are a variety of ways. And Ryan and Jamie are going to help me go over some of these. But each of these models were created because we were asked a specific question. How can I solve this problem? So for homebound suspension, how can we give as many homebound and suspended students the best quality education without having to send a tutor to their house, worry about whether the kid was actually going to be there, or what type of education was being given, if it was a certified teacher or not. And the way to do that is probably the model of Sewanaka, actually, is what this is modeled after, so very fitting. Thanks, Fred. Our system provides increased accountability. We don't have to worry about where are those papers that were sent from the classroom teacher to the tutor, brought to the lab, brought to the library. Where is all of this paperwork? My car got stolen and I can't find it. You don't have to worry about it. It's all, my dog ate it. It's all in our system. So everything there is a digital copy. Even if they do something by hand, a lot of times we will, help them scan it and get it on there. So when somebody comes to us, which, we've had it happen, last September, there was a student in the program and I need all of his work. And we are able to go back through and get everything that those students did. So, and in that same aspect is the individual student dossiers. Anybody in the district, in these programs can log in and see everything that each of these students are doing. The on-site educational liaison is one component that we provide that really does make the entire program seamless. I mean, they're our on-site person, they're able to help with any tech support, they're able to assist anything. The worst thing is when you buy a product and it just sits on a shelf and nobody uses it. That'll never happen with Right Reason because we are there. We will make sure you are using it and that you are using it to the best that you can. We provide a computer lab setting. Usually these take place in after-school academies, but they've also been done in a more pure distance manner if the students are not able to, be on school grounds at all. It improves the student-teacher ratio with saving costs, and sending a one-on-one tutor. And you can keep track of your students, keep them on track with their classwork. When a student comes into our suspension program, depending on the district, some districts have our pacing guides in our system, so we can see exactly what they're supposed to be doing. This is the week. They're supposed to be doing solving algebraic equations. If it's not that, we have online resources and forms that they fill out to tell us what that student is supposed to be doing. So they're out for 2 weeks. We know exactly what topics those students should be working on during those 2 weeks. And we do provide the curriculum for long-term and full-year suspensions. So when somebody is out from September through the end of the year, we have that curriculum and that background to be able to help support them. And the other thing that's not really on here is that I remember somebody mentioning it, that we don't replace the teachers. In our lab settings, we have district teachers that are there as the support for each of the subject areas. So depending on how the program runs, they might have math and social studies one day. There'll be a certified educator in the room to assist them with those topics. And then they rotate. The next day they'll do English and science. And then I think we're gonna go over to alternative ed, and Jamie's gonna talk about an example over there.
Thank you. Hello. Okay. One of the issues that we were faced with, kind of after we tackled the issue of homebound and our suspended populations, the next kind of issue to tackle was kind of that alternative program. Usually the program that nobody really wanted to touch, unfortunately. It's the most challenging group of students. We know that. Most of these students just do not function properly in a traditional classroom setting. So we have to kind of take a look at how do these students learn, what really are their needs, what are their goals, what are our goals for them, and kind of create a program that will best serve them as opposed to maybe best serving what the system or what the district, sees as a traditional classroom instruction. So we were faced with the problem of how can we increase the number of students that we're going to be able to serve along with the courses, because a lot of the time you're stuck with 4 general subject area teachers in the core subjects, and you're stuck with a bunch of kids who need a lot of electives, or they need a gym credit or something else. So, how are we going to reach these kids and really get them what they need? So what we found was that our system was able to really differentiate things for them. In the past, teachers a lot of the times were using a lot of worksheets, a lot of handouts, a lot of textbooks and that kind of thing. So having our online curriculum really allowed them more flexibility in the classroom. So traditionally, an alternative education program is usually a modified school day, usually starts after the students are already in the building so that when these kids come, it's not, a big free-for-all. Or in Amityville's case, which we heard in the other room with the roundtable discussion, they actually do it in a night setting. So it's actually at night later, and those students actually are able to work during the day, which is a really nice thing for those kids because a lot of them are, the super seniors, or they're old enough to get a decent job, or they'll go to work with their parents, and then, and actually Jack is the supervisor of that Virtual 2 program. So yeah, so perfect timing, it works, and that program really works out beautifully. I mean, that really is one of those programs that is catered very specifically to the students. So having a modified school day, having the blended learning environment, having that teacher there able to do the one-on-one instruction like they do over there in Amityville. I mean, the kids will be working on their individual online lessons for half the time, and then they get one-on-one with that teacher. That teacher will then instruct either a small group on a mini lesson based on some topic that, will apply to all of the kids in there. Or they can do something that's very, very targeted because they see that the student is struggling with a topic. So it really allows a lot of flexibility, especially when you have kids at multiple grade levels, in multiple subject areas, all in the same room, all expecting the same amount of attention. And they deserve it. So being able to actually give different course offerings, allow them to move at their own pace, which is very important for alternative. I mean, you're able to actually, if a student is very proficient in a subject area, they may finish their online coursework and whatever supplemental materials are given to them before the end of the school year. That will allow you as well to make a decision on whether or not we're going to get them started on the next course, or if we're going to give them some sort of enrichment or something else. So in the opposite effect, we had students that maybe needed an extra semester, an extra quarter in a math class that in a traditional classroom would not really work. So in an alternative setting, you can give that student extra time to complete that credit, and then they'll just move on to the next course because you do have a setting that is not traditional. It has, multiple students, multiple grade levels, multiple courses, but this really allows you to foster collaboration, also do the one-on-one and small group, as well as individualizing and differentiating for each of your students. So we're going to move on to Ryan with Learning Recovery.
All right. So, the question to pose is how can 11th and 12th grade students that previously failed classes or are in danger of failing recover credits to graduate with their peers? And we talked a lot about this actually in the discussion right there. But just to give you another example, we have a lot of different ways of this. They can, after they fail the full year, they can go to summer school. There's a lot specifically in Greece, and you're going to hear me talk about Greece all day long. You're going to be sick of it. Greece this, Greece that. It's a big, big district. I mean, it's not massive, but it's a big district, 4 high schools. I run around like a madman trying to manage like 9, 10 programs, and everything from credit recovery to learning recovery, which I'll get into. But that's why I talk about it, because that's what I live. So. What we have are a couple of different ways. We have after-school twilight program, which we've kind of talked about that model. So what I'm going to talk about is the day program. We call them academic learning centers. It's basically a support room with usually a reading specialist as like the room manager, and then we have push-in help from different content teachers. So there's one building, Greece Arcadia High School, that there are 2 teachers at every given period, and they just went to a 10-day schedule, which is I'm still trying to figure out, by the way. But so every time they have 2 different teachers in every block. So if I want to go see a couple of teachers, I've had to go there 10 times in order to train about 20 people because everybody's so crazy, they're all so busy that it's very difficult to get to them. But the more important thing is there's teachers in there fitting the needs of students, whether there are their content or not. There is somebody from each content in there at one point during the day who can manage the grading, who can manage any questions that the student has through the email back and forth if they're not there for that specific period. And they can manage the overall credit accrual or credit recovery, whether it's a quarter or a full year. So we have a lot of, especially 11th and 12th grade, ELA 12 is huge. Any, make up a half credit or a credit in phys ed. Any other recovery that they can do elective-wise is huge for this. So basically, it's, if somebody fails throughout the year or is in jeopardy of failing, that's one way to do that credit accrual, credit recovery, but there's also the electives. So, oh, there we go. Should have gone forward. So I just said that. So it's replacing study halls. It really is. I mean, they don't have the lounges and the study halls that I might have had in school, because I was an excellent student, obviously. So they're replacing study halls. So they're actually scheduled to be in this support room. And if they don't have work, they can always read and things like that, but very rarely do they not have work. They're going to find something for them to do. And then the great thing is they can jump on the computer and start working through their classes without any, any teacher instruction. But the teacher is there to ask any questions, to go through instruction. Even if they're not content, there's the instruction for the teacher to go through with them. All teachers are knowledgeable enough to go through an instruction and be able to kind of reteach it and teach themselves at the same time. See it all the time. I even do it sometimes. I'm elementary special ed, like I said, and I'm trying to help with a global lesson for a student because I have a few minutes and the teacher's busy. Global was my worst subject, by the way. But I passed. Individual learning plans are huge. We have diagnostics that can determine what, areas of need for students that not only they generate reports so that we can see the areas of need by standard or by topic, but it gives the student an idea of where they are when they're starting. Especially for Regents Prep in Greece, we use this a ton. Regents Prep, you might have failed by 5 points, so do you really have to go through the whole course again? Do you really, what are the areas of need? And that's what we did with the Regents Prep that I talked about in the other room, is that when you determine what you need and when you drill it down to the need to know stuff, that will, the student goes, oh, okay, I got 10 or 15 lessons, and then maybe I'll take a Regents exam and see how I'm progressing. And we usually start that in the beginning of December until January. That's pretty much what our summer school has become as Regents Prep because of credit recovery and especially learning recovery. This is a really much more innovative idea. Credit recovery, I think, has been around a long time. But learning recovery is very new, specifically to Greece, and I'm getting a lot of buzz around the Rochester area about it. It's basically, say you're a student, you go through the entire course all year long. You get a 64 in the class, but you pass the Regents. What do you have to do? Summer school, right? Do you have to take the whole class over? They used to when I was, yeah. Well, that's fine, but that increases your enrollment in summer school. It costs a lot of money. Teacher has to be there. What if after 5 weeks you determined, oh, you know what? He missed Unit 2. Or Neolithic Revolution, he failed that unit. Why not stop there and say, we need to rebuild these skills and this knowledge so that he's on track with his peers after 5 or 10 weeks? So you're not waiting. It's not reactive after a whole year. It's proactive and reactive at the same time, because it's after 5 weeks you are going back and saying, What are the areas of need? What did he fail? What is he in jeopardy of failing, or she, sorry, and how can we attack that? And we do that through, in Greece, we do that through a learning gap analysis. I have a worksheet up here that I'd love for you to take. It's a great little model of how we do things. A learning gap analysis is basically an outline of one of our curricula. So I think that one is that global or algebra? So basically it's an outline with every lesson and every unit that we have. Now you only have the first part, that's about half of them. So it's a back and front sheet, but on the back you have something else, and I'll explain that too. So on the front, what you do is after a student is referred to one of these programs to relearn the skills that they missed while they're still currently enrolled in the class, you would take this to their teacher of record, their gen ed teacher, and you would say, what did they miss? Check off every lesson that you think that they missed and they should do. So they have an individualized learning plan that's collaborated with not only a guidance counselor, an administrator, and the teacher of a program, Twilight or Academic Learning Center. But now you have the collaboration with the gen ed teacher. You have that buy-in because they see exactly what lessons they're about to take, and then they see the grades afterward. Now, this is not in order to get a 90 when you had a 50 for your first 5 weeks. This is to bring it up to a passing grade. But it's more importantly to relearn the skills and the knowledge. That's the most important thing. Yes, we want a passing grade, but really we want them on track with their peers. So it's that proactive approach to re-engage student learning. It's rebuilding the skills and knowledge. It's using those learning gaps. And if you flip it over, that's actually a specific building's expectations for both teacher and, the gen ed teacher or teacher of record and the program teacher. And it's kind of a step-by-step process. I'll let you read through that. I'm not going to go over that right now. But if you have any questions, please ask me. So advantages, treatment is ongoing. You're getting an autopsy after 5 weeks or after 10 weeks. Depends by building whether or not they're doing that, but whether or not they're doing 5 or 10. But most are starting to realize that if they attack it every 5 weeks, then they're still enrolled in the class throughout the day. They come afternoon or they come during a study hall. They relearn the stuff that they missed. More prepared. And actually, in turn, is reducing the credit recovery that they need. So I've worked 2 summers now with Greece. The first summer was a lot of credit recovery and quite a bit of test prep as well. This last summer was 90% test prep. And the only people that needed credit recovery was really credit accrual. So they needed either an elective or an English 12 or something that they missed to graduate in January or graduate in this coming June. So I'm going to pass this along.
Thank you. So I met you before. I'm Brian Zahn. I'm principal of Southampton High School, and this is the first year that we are using RRT. And actually, I came upon RRT from a little different perspective. Last year, as first-year principal, I spent a lot of time analyzing our AIS model in the high school. And we certainly were in need of trying to find a new way to deliver AIS services because what we were doing simply was not working, and we weren't reaching all of the students that we needed to reach. Unlike Greece, we are a very small high school. I have 585 students, so we are a relatively small district. So providing AIS was not an easy type of experience for us. What we had in the past is that we had generally 1 or 2 teachers per department that were scheduled a period during the day, and they offered AIS services during that period, and we hoped that kids can fit that into the schedule. Well, when I analyzed that last year, we found that we were only probably servicing about 50% of the students that were in need of AIS, and the other kids were simply not getting anything. So I spent some time with some teachers and staff members really trying to think outside the box and how we could effectively deliver services and meet kids' needs. So what we came up with this year is that we did have, again, a select number of teachers that were going to be our AIS, and we're calling them learning labs this year, where they were scheduled throughout the day. And we really took a look at kids' schedules. And what we had is that we had, if you were an AIS teacher this year, say a social studies teacher, it wasn't just course-based. It was that you are the AIS social studies teacher, and you'll be servicing kids who are in need of multiple things, such as global assistance, U.S. assistance, all in the same classroom. Well, if you said we were going to do that, what tools and what would we need to make that happen? And that's where RRT came in. So we have multi-level AIS classes that are focused on differentiating, meeting kids' needs, and delivering high-quality small group instruction. So we have an AIS teacher in the classroom where they are, the first thing that we did, and this is the beautiful thing about RRT, is that we were able to give diagnostic assessments through the system to our students. That was giving us reports of where our students, their needs were. And in addition to giving us those reports, the program was able to deliver what we call ILPs, or individual learning plans for our kids. So the structure of the class is now that the classroom teacher would be able to meet with small groups. Let's say if you're a social studies teacher, you'll be meeting with your U.S. kids one day, while Global 9 kids, Global 10 kids are working on their ILPs. And then there's a rotation, daily rotations. So the next day the teacher is working with direct, explicit small group instruction for grade 9 global kids, while the other kids are working on lessons that are part of their ILP through Right Reason. Those lessons, as the kids are working with them, are coming back to the classroom teachers, so the teachers are able to really appropriately assess how the students are performing on those lessons. They're able to grade them. They can actually push lessons back to them if needed, and they're able to really adequately progress monitor their students. So we now have a structure where we're able to capture all students in need of support. And also we have a tool that enables our teachers to differentiate their instruction and work with kids in small groups. So, you know, certainly this is the first year. I'm not going to say that it's perfect yet, but I can tell you that it's 100 times better than what we've had in the past. So it is, again, very data-driven. It provides teachers the opportunity to work in small groups, and it also enables us to capture all of our students that are in need of additional support. What we did also for the general ed teachers is that we wanted to provide an additional tool in their toolbox as well. We currently this year have a one-to-one initiative taking place in our building. All of our students have received a tablet this year. And, well, I shouldn't say all, most of our students this year. The remaining number of students that we have will receive them next year. But for the most part, most of our students do have their tablets this year, and our staff has been trained with them. So what we did also is that we wanted to provide supports in our general classrooms as well. So we enabled all of our teachers to have access to RRT, provided them with that brief half-day training, as I spoke about earlier. And now general teachers can use RRT lessons within their classrooms. I've seen already teachers using it in a variety of different ways. Some people are pushing out lessons for homework. Some people have actually walked in and they have kids working on lessons, specific different lessons, based on what they feel the needs of their students are, as they're working in small groups with other kids. So our general teachers are using it in a variety of ways right now. But I can tell you, we brought it in to really try to focus on solving our AIS problem that we've had. And so far, I can tell you I don't have the performance data, student performance data yet, because we really want to go through a full year of that to analyze that. But I can tell you from a qualitative type of some qualitative information that I've received from our teachers and our kids is that our teachers feel that they're better prepared to meet the needs of students because they do have this resource. And students feel that they are having their needs met because, number one, they're getting additional supports and they're getting it through small group instruction, and they also have this program that is helping them meet their needs as well. So To start, I can tell you that we're very pleased with how we're rolling out the program. We are starting to look at now what we can do to support kids with learning recovery and credit recovery. So that's the next step of our implementation. So, yes?
Question. Have your teachers used this for pre-assessments that we have to do for the SLOs yet?
They have not. We haven't used this as pre-assessments, but so we are taking a look at that, experimenting with it. We have used in the past. We experimented with Castle Learning and other things like that with pre-assessments. I know that RRT you can do that, but we have not done that yet.
Because as you were speaking, just the light bulb went off that we have kids changing sections, and so I have to email the previous teacher from the AP when they drop down to my class.
Yep.
And that takes away that whole question of where's the pre-assessment for every student in the building.
Right. It's right in there. Yeah.
And it could be, we have the ability then to set exactly what that pre-assessment is going to be across the board, regardless of what line teacher that you have.
We've actually had some discussions with Lois and some other people about how we can use our local assessments in there. So that's something we're exploring right now.
There's a district in the back that can speak to it.
At Eagle School District, we've used the pre-assessment component with the referees and the SLOs. So what we did was we submitted exams to Right Reason, Jamie particularly. She inputted them into the Right Reason program. So they had a copy of the test, students took the test in class. The answer key was placed on like a bubble sheet of some sort. The bubble sheets were submitted to Right Reason. They entered the scores, so they matched up and they were in the Right Reason program. And from that, we were able to, that would be our baseline score for our SLOs, which would be in the Right Reason program. And then from there, we could input our target score. So we use the Right Reason component for our SLOs this school year. And it's, fairly organized.
I'm just thinking that even from a productivity point of view about how much stress you're saving teachers.
Sure.
Amidst the beginning of the school year trying to get everything else in place. That would have saved me a lot of time this year.
Yep. I can tell you what we are planning is for, not in terms of for our SLO, but for our local assessment, the other 20 points, possibly now down to 15 points, is that we've developed our own local assessments that I'm hoping that we can get into the RRT system and we can deliver it that way. I figured you could. So, and I have to tell you, and I don't want to sound like a salesperson, but I've had some crazy ideas from myself and from staff members, just in terms of with what we want to do with it, and they've been very responsive. And again, yeah, we can do that. So
Yeah, I just want to know what kind of tablets are
we're using iPads.
If we want to look at benchmarking, right, and the quarterly doesn't have to be a classroom thing, but we can assign a quote quarterly, right, and the kids go on themselves, and this way we know where the kids are before the fact instead of after
Sure.
the fact.
Absolutely. There's a couple of different modes in the system as well, test-taking mode and that kind of stuff, so it'll lock them out. And yeah, a couple of districts, we're looking into that.
And actually, if you assign it as an assessment as a teacher, you get back the results with an individual learning plan for your students, if it's an assessment. So you can, as a quarterly, give a common quarterly, which is what data-driven instruction is all about. You give a common quarterly or a common midterm, and you get back where your student strengths and weaknesses are. Not only do you get your student strengths and weaknesses back, you get your whole class back, and you get a small group instruction. So it'll give you a plan back that says your class didn't get reducing fractions. This small group of students didn't understand adding whole numbers. And these individual students couldn't count from 1 to 10. I mean, I'm kind of making that up, but you get the idea. So that you can plan your instruction, which is where Brian is actually going with Southampton in those AIS classes. That's what they're doing.
Right.
They're giving assessments, which we call diagnostics. Actually, because I helped set this up.
That's right.
So we gave a diagnostic, let's say in math class. So we have 9th graders sitting there who came in from 8th grade, got a 1 on the state assessment. And Brian and the math teacher said, so what are we going to give them? We can't give them an algebra pre-assessment. So we actually gave the 6th grade diagnostic. We didn't call it 6th grade, we called it diagnostic A. And the students took that. If they did well on it, we gave them B, which was a 7th grade test. But if they didn't do well on 6th grade, we gave them a diagnostic, gave them a plan. And the liaison then in that district, I think Jamie, you actually did the assignments, but assigned the lessons based on
Right.
Brian would really like to bring a reading teacher in to do that. So we're, kind of talking about strategies to do that. But that's really what the strength of Brian's program is looking at the students' weaknesses and individualizing actually what students are doing in the classroom.
I have an interesting situation where I have a kid who has to take the Regents in January. She was out of the district for a year, and so I'm trying to plot out and accelerate it, not credit recovery, but credit acceleration, because she's got to sit without 6 months of the course, and so I'm just trying to map it out now so that she'll have all the material.
Right.
So what you need then is the diagnostic.
The diagnostic, yeah.
What that student is missing. Don't learn all of it again. If you know some of it, use that strength and continue on what you don't know.
Great.
Thanks, Brian. I'm sorry. I jumped
No,
in on
please.
that, but-
That's what we had arranged there. So what we want to do is go from this model of where districts have used our program before for credit recovery, alternative schools, homebound, suspended students. We want to change that now into a creative classroom. This is really where technology strengths are in our schools. So we're going to go into flipped classroom. So now how can we do a flipped classroom within our platform? Not every teacher has the technology skills to do things like Mark and other teachers. I know Brian has a teacher in his school that does it. Angelica has a math teacher in Riverhead that does a flipped classroom. But that means they have to set up a website somehow to put the videos on. They have to manage what students are doing online. Not every school district has those resources, but they do have, in many cases, the resource of Right Reason Technologies. They're already one of our partner districts. So the traditional lecture can be recorded. Students watch the video or watch a YouTube video. There's some great science videos that are out there that we use in our lessons. The teachers then can work in the classroom, individual assignments. Students are working on projects, they're doing hands-on labs. They're doing lots of individual challenging or learning in small groups. What does the research show? So I've actually done a lot of reading on the research, is a little bit of research now coming in about flipped classrooms. And some of the studies are saying, and this is important for high schools, where the traditional high school teacher would stand, lecture for 20, 30 minutes, students would sort of take notes. So different. Digital natives don't learn like that anymore. Their brains are actually kind of rewired. Teachers actually get to know their students better using a flipped classroom. And I think that's what Mark was referring to when he said he has a really good relationship with his students. This allows you to get to know your students individually. The learning that you provide your students then is individualized and differentiated. And obviously, the point of it is that your students' skills and understandings are greatly improved. What are the outcomes? Higher passing rates, better results on standardized exams. Is that a way to measure this? Maybe not from a teacher's perspective, but that's what school districts look at. That's what the state looks at. So it's a reality. Yes, we do want to see better scores. And consistent curriculum for all students, even students who are absent, but even better, students can go back and rewatch it and rewatch it. We have a notebook feature that you'll see in our program. Students can actually take notes within our platform and look back at their notes. So you can rewatch things multiple times until you think you got it. And that's important for kids, because once they leave your classroom, they can't rewind you. It's done.
Sure winds up, though.
No, that's the truth. When they try and burn your school, you mean, a couple of times? That was very interesting. Thank you for that. That trumped that was good. So we're actually going to do a demo now, where you can actually go into our system, and we set up a flipped classroom on, but before we do that, so do you know e-boards? Do people still have e-boards? Okay, so we looked at e-boards, and we said, e-boards are kind of antiquated at this point. You already have Right Reason technology. How can we use our teacher page as an e-board so that it's all in one place for students and teachers? So that's one of the things that I wanted to bring up. So as we walk you through this, you'll know what we were thinking. And I'll turn that over to...
I'll talk for just a second, and then Jamie's going to get started. So what we're going to do is try and show you how you can use RightPath. For many of you who already are using RightPath, how you can integrate RightPath into this flipped classroom idea. So like Lois was talking about the e-boards. I know some of the districts that use us are familiar with classroom homepages that are integrated in our system. So we're going to kind of show you a custom math classroom homepage. Rich, you'll be very excited to see this one, I'm sure. So we worked with our math specialists, so thank you to Kathy for helping coordinate all of the resources that, you know, generally a normal math teacher would have on hand, and how to organize those and put them into our system. So Jamie's going to take over the student portion, and you guys are going to get to pretend to be your flipped classroom students, and then Ryan will take over a little bit at the end and be the classroom teacher. So this is the at-home portion of your flipped classroom.
Okay, thank you. And like she said, I mean, we're demonstrating math, which I think is great, and thank you. And I mean, you're a chemistry teacher anyway, but just demonstrating science and math as far as the flipped classroom, I think was really the best way to go, because I'm certified social studies, so I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much I can do. But then I was like, math. So this is perfect. So you're going to be very excited to see this. So let's just pretend that I'm a student at home. I came home, or even on the bus ride home. I mean, I went to St. Anthony's High School, so I had an hour-long bus ride. So if I had an iPad, this would have been perfect for me. You know, any after-school programs, kids are waiting for their, you know, school practice or something. They can actually log on to whatever it is. Again, use a smartphone and log on to this. It does work on the smartphone. I reset passwords from my phone on our system, so it does work. And I log in, and immediately what happens is a calendar reminder pops up from my teacher telling me exactly what I am to do tonight for my homework. So it's telling me that I have to review all my materials on the classroom homepage for Unit 1, Topic 10, and I'm going to take notes in my notebook, and I'm going to be prepared for the classroom discussion tomorrow. So I can X out of my calendar event. And this is just the classroom homepage. I'll just say, not the whole classroom homepage, excuse me, the cyber extension homepage. Just really quickly, this locker is really great. Just for reference, that's kind of like an internal key drive. So if your district doesn't allow kids to bring flash drives and stuff, that's great. The students will also have their assignments widget here. There is an internal email system, so they can email back and forth to their teacher or to a helper like myself. You know, I can't get this lesson to open, help me. So the email is all internal. The kids have their own calendar, so if they wanted to put up calendar events themselves, they could do that, and it'll also pop up with reminders. But, oh, excuse me, for all intents and purposes, we're going to be looking at the classroom page, which can also be found right up here in this Classes tab. So when I go to my classroom homepage, this is what was now completely customized by my teacher for my class. So the overview page has my notebook here. So if I had been taking notes in any of my lessons or creating any sort of little notebook entries, I could go in there and just view it from there. My assignments widget will have all of my new, due, late, and practice assignments listed there for me. Again, my calendar has my calendar events, and then there's this forum discussion, but I know that that's not for me at home, that's for me in the classroom. Those are my do nows. So I'm going to skip the forum discussion, and I'm going to come back down here to Unit 1, because that's where it told me to go, and that's where I'm going to find my assignments. So as you can see, this was customized by my teacher to give me all of my instructional materials that I need for the night before so that I come into my class prepared. So you'll see here that I have Common Core Algebra Unit 1, and there are topics down here, so I'm going to be doing topic number 9. I already did topic number 8 last night, so I know that I can click this little link right here, and it's going to bring me straight down to topic 9. And that's what I'm going to look at tonight for homework. So this is actually an image, because unfortunately we're on a server, so it's not an active playlist, but on the internet, this would actually be a playlist of videos that I would go through and watch that night, so that the next day I could pretty much come in and answer questions like these. So this is actually a video, and I'm just going to click play really, really quick so you can just kind of get an idea. My volume is down. I was supposed to bring speakers.
X by itself in the equation given, which is 5 teacher's math is done for us. We solve for x on the left side, so we're not concerned with the math in this system.
So you get the idea. It's yes. Oh, in the video, okay. Ooh. Yeah, so this is basically, as if your teacher had done it, live on almost like a little whiteboard, an interactive whiteboard.
Anybody know homework hotline? Remember that? This is when the guys on the chalkboard be called in, get your math problems. So
Nope, there you go.
just like
That's pretty much what it looks like. Yeah, no. So, and what's great about this as well is that this is here for the student's reference all the time. So I know that I'm going to have a test at the end of this week on Unit 1. I'm going to now come back the night before that test, and I'm going to come in here and I'm going to review every video on every topic the night before that test, because I have access to it whenever I want, which is a beautiful thing about having something like this. This next box, this is actually, again, because we're on the server, I apologize, but this is an interactive online graphing calculator that is embedded here. So what they could do is take these two equations and sort of manipulate the online calculator here to try to play with how different calculations and different points will create a different formula. Yes?
Is this, are these assignments for every subject? Are they already inputted into
No. No, this is an example of what you could do with the classroom homepage. So we did this for an example. I can show you how to do all of this next week.
All right, cool. So like my virtual teachers,
Oh, absolutely. I can do a demo for this for you next week.
Christine, the page that you're looking at here, Jamie, if you want to just scroll up to the top.
Yep.
The pages that are included in the system are the overview, the people, the profile, and the resources. And that Unit 1 is a custom page that the teachers have the ability to create their own, however many custom pages they want to create. So can you put in video they can choose?
So you can basically take Weber's website
Okay.
and put it on here in units.
And is there like a bank, so to speak, where we can look at all different videos? There probably is some inside of the library of things, but you can, because you can go in and edit any of our lessons, you can go in there and grab stuff from a lesson and pull it in there. That's basically essentially what we did.
Yeah.
We took our entire lesson and we transformed it and said, okay, well, we don't want them to be doing the learning component with the lesson. We want them to be doing that at home. So we kind of transformed one of our lessons, and it doesn't take very long, and you can do the same exact thing.
Yeah, so I'll plan on that for next week. So now, let's say it's the next day. I watched all my videos. I went through my units. I maybe even reviewed on topic 8 quickly, just so that, because I know that that's building to my skills that I'm going to be learning in Unit 9. So now it's the next day, and I'm coming back into my classroom. And I know that when I walk into the classroom, the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to see this due now for 10:18, and I'm going to click that link. And now it gave me 2 different discussion questions, and I can actually post a reply. And what's really nice about these discussion questions, I'm just going to do gibberish right now just because it's math and I don't have time to do it right now. I'm not a mental math person. So you post your reply, and then what happens is, and if you guys choose to log in, you guys will have student cards with you with a student number. The password is password, so you all can log in and kind of get in and play with it if you wanted to. But what's nice is that all of these replies will pop up in the forum discussion, so your students can actually kind of foster some collaboration and, oh wait, I saw this on the video, I didn't really understand this topic. You can have a student who understood it answer back and say, well, I got it, and this is where I saw it in the video. Yes. Oh yeah, no, that's what go right ahead. I'm one of those people that likes to do a demo first.
There's an icon on the desktop if you want to double-click the Internet Explorer icon there. That'll pull open our system, and then you can log in.
Yes, and please help yourself play around. Look at, you guys have everything on here that I have. Password. Yes, we default the passwords to password. Keep everything pretty easy. Yes.
Walk around and see if anybody needs any tech help.
Yes. And help yourself to posting replies. We'll see them start to pop up.